today's video I'm going to show you guys how to play that low flighted spinning greenside shot from about 30 yards using your lob wedge. It's a shot that many players want to play. It's a great shot to have in the toolkit when needed, and it's not as difficult to play as you might actually think. Let me talk you through my keys. Okay, so first things first, in order to play this shot well, we need a few things that are going in our favour. Number one, ideally you want a firm surface in which to be hitting off of. That's important. If you're trying to play this shot when it's really wet, really boggy, it can be done, but it's pretty tricky to do so. Secondly, we want the conditions to be relatively dry. Again, we put moisture on the club face and on the golf ball. It reduces the friction. It makes playing this shot particularly difficult. So we want dry conditions. We also want the green surface to be, relatively soft. It's very, very difficult when the green surface is firm to be able to get the ball to land, rip, and spin as much. Now, that's when you probably want the shot the most. That's when you want to be able to play that flighted spinning shot, is when the greens are particularly firm. But don't get it mistaken. You're not about to see the golf ball hit and rip sideways across a very firm green. If all these factors are in our favour, then we're prime to play this shot. Things that we want to avoid, the mistakes that we often see. Number one, players getting the stance too wide. If I get my stance too wide when I'm trying to play this shot, I'm far more likely to have a really long golf swing, which is going to cause me to decelerate down into the golf ball. We want to avoid doing that. Okay, we want to ensure that our stance width is appropriate for the shot we're playing. Number two, often see players really try and open up the face on their lob wedge at address. Again, we want the face open, but we don't need it flop shot open. It's going to make it very difficult to hit that low flighted shot if I address with too much loft. The third mistake we often see players make, pushing the hands forward. So to show you the absolute do not do ever setup for this type of shot, we'd see wide, super open, and pushing the hands forward. Those three things alone are going to make playing this shot nearly all but impossible. Make sure you pick the correct golf club. So for this shot, we're using a 60-degree lob wedge. My choice of wedge is the TaylorMade MG4 wedge, the TW grind. So this wedge enables me to have a shallow attack angle without the club bouncing too much and also without it digging in too much. So it's important to have the right equipment, the golf ball of choice. Here we're using a premium golf ball. This shot is not going to be able to be played on firm greens using something like a hot dot. So we've got a TaylorMade TP5 golf ball here. Premium golf ball is going to give you the best opportunity to get the most spin around the green. So in order to play this shot well, we're going to narrow in the stance. You'll see here about 2 club head widths. That's the first thing. Nice narrow stance. It's going to restrict how far back I can swing the golf club, which is then going to enable me to have a small amount of acceleration through the hitting area. It's going to reduce the risk of me having to slow the club head down. Okay, we want to get spin on the golf ball. We need speed and friction. Secondly, you'll notice that the golf ball position, I don't have it way back in the stance. Lots of players, when trying to play this shot, position the golf ball too far back in the stance. Guys, we don't need to. I'm going to have the golf ball forward of centre for this particular shot. You'll also notice that at address, I'm going to hold the club at its full length. You won't see me choking down the grip on this one. I'm going to hold it at its full length. The reason being why I'm going to hold it so high up is that this is going to force me through the hitting area to extend and stand tall. And as I extend and stand tall, I create space for my club head to move through with some additional speed. If we find players go down the grip, we're often going to see them lowering into the shot, which is, we don't want that. We want to create some space. Create space, we create club head speed plus friction. It's going to give us some spin. So in addition to gripping the club at the top of the handle, having a narrower stance, you'll also see that I'm going to set up very neutral with my feet. I'm going to be standing quite tall here. You'll also notice in relationship to the alignment stick on the ground, the club face is marginally open. I don't have it like I'm hitting a bunk shot or a lob shot. It's just marginally open. From here, I'm going to work to maintain that loft. I'm not adding any extra loft. I'm not reducing the loft. I'm simply feeling like I'm going to turn my left shoulder and extend my arm towards you guys on the camera there and maintain that loft into my backswing. Notice how I haven't set any wrist hinge at this point in time. One of the things you're going to notice as well is that I avoid setting my wrists early. You're not going to see me creating hinge early in the takeaway. I don't need to. I'm trying to feel like the club head is going to slide underneath the golf ball. So whilst there will be, the wrist will hinge, it won't happen until my club's getting almost past my hip line here, and then there'll be a slight amount of wrist hinge. We want to avoid that early setting because that's just going to steepen the attack angle, which makes it particularly difficult to get that low flighted spin shot, because as my club head works down, more often than not, for the recreational player, the golf ball is going to pop and launch up in the air. We can keep the club head feeling lower to the ground for longer, and we're far more likely to see that ball flight come out that much lower because we're going to be catching the lower part of the club face, those bottom 5 or 6 grooves. That combined with friction, speed, and that lowering of the ball flight will come off with a bit more, increased loft, lower launch. We're going to see the golf ball spin up a little bit. Those of you with a keen eye will notice that at address, I have a very small amount of lateral movement onto my right side. So just prior to taking the club away, I like to feel like I have a small amount of movement on my right, which now makes me feel I'm actually set up neutral and square over the golf ball. Again, I'm avoiding leaning into the shot too much. You'll notice that that little kind of shift to my right side enables me to get centralized over the ball, and then from here I can then apply pressure forward. I can increase my speed ever so slightly by moving forward into the shot without getting myself trapped so far ahead and catching the golf ball way too thin. This enables me, and this is a feeling, guys, that when I feel like I'm on my right side, to keep that club a little bit shallower through the hitting area. But you'll also notice that as I start into my downswing, so my pressure now feels slightly more on my right foot. This is my feeling. And then I will ever so slightly narrow in the gap, which is that creating some speed for myself. And then I'm going to stand tall and allow the club head to release down through the hitting area here. So the feeling is that the club head is going to match up with my hands at point of contact. You'll also notice a smooth tempo. Whilst I am looking to increase the club head speed, because I do need speed to create some spin, you won't find me throwing the club as hard as I physically can. I create my speed by creating space and allowing the club head to pass the hands through the hitting area whilst keeping loft on the club, but I also maintain a smooth rhythm whilst doing it. And it's that effortless rhythm that enables me to create that speed, which gets me that spin that we're looking for. So try to avoid really excessively dragging the hands and throwing the club head down to hit the golf ball. That's not going to add you any more spin on your golf ball when trying to play this particular shot. So hopefully you'd have noticed there that the final part for my movement is just a little bit of pressure shift back into my lead side as I'm working into the downswing. Again, that's my source of power. It also controls the low point of the shot. I don't want to get stuck on my back foot whilst trying to play this shot. I still want to be moving forward. But if we can recap briefly, that feeling of being on my right side at address helps me feel like I'm going to keep the club head lower to the ground, but also enables myself to move forward through the striking area to generate that little bit of extra power, which can be additional speed and can help me get the distance for the shot we're trying to play here. You get that little low razor time and time again. Guys, those are just a couple of the keys for playing this shot. There's plenty more information that we can gather, and there's plenty more information I'm going to be putting up. So guys, to see the next video for how to play this shot, a few more of those keys, a few things that you would need to do in order to play this shot consistently and do it well time and time again, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, and please share the video with your friends where you can. Until next time, happy golfing.